Hi, I'm Simon Wistow. I'm co-founder of Fastly. I am an unrepentant nerd and lifelong open source contributor, and I'm here to talk about why Fastly is committed to the free software and open source movement. I met, for my co-founders through doing open source software. Fastly is built on open source software. Yes, we have our own proprietary software, but the foundations of everything we're built on are open languages on an operating system with open source sort of components and infrastructure. And so not only for Fastly, but for almost every single one of our customers and for the entire internet, it's been incredibly important. You get all these people coming in and they have their own particular areas of interest. The fact that multiple people get to work on the things that they want to means that the open source software just leaps forward. And so what you've seen is this incredible pace of innovation in open source software that has been good for commercial software because it drives commercial software forward. They say the rising tide lifts all the boats. That's what it's doing. It has been shown repeatedly over the last 30 years that having open source and free software methodology has massively reduced security risk. There used to be a phrase which was security through obscurity. If you could prevent people from looking at your code, then that would hide all your bugs and that means there would be less security risk. That has been shown to be fundamentally wrong. Instead, what happens is you publish your code in public, then you get so many more people looking at it and going through the code and finding these patterns and these potential flaws, or they can write tools that go and find that. There are automated tools that go and try and find what's called code anti-patterns, which might lead to a security risk. And so what you find is there are way less critical vulnerabilities in something like Linux than there are inside Windows. And so the open source has conclusively shown that over the years that it is better for security, not worse for security in software. I'd say that it has always been and always will be absolutely resolute. We met each other as founders and a lot of our early employees through the open source community. We are built on an enormous stack of open source software. There's the saying built on the shoulders of giants. Fastly would not exist where it is today without being able to be built on open source. And so just for that point of view, we would always want to support the open source community. And we do that in a whole bunch of different ways. We sponsor conferences, we give direct donations to certain software projects that we work on. But then we also have our Fast Forward program, which gives free hosting and free delivery for an enormous number of open source packages and programs and individuals. We have always wanted to support open source. And so we would reach out to, bits of open source software that we were using, or bits of open source software would reach out to us and ask for help. We sort of reformalized this informal program around this new this new initiative, which we called Fast Forward. We are doing something that is good for the internet. And what is good for the internet is good for us. But that's also not the only reason why we're doing that. We want to see sort of young developers or open source programs succeed because we think it is better for the world. It can be a burden doing open source work. You are working for free, and sometimes the worst thing is the burden of success. If your software project becomes really popular, that means that you're going to have thousands and thousands of inbound requests. Suddenly this stops becoming fun and starts becoming a burden. And that can really burn people out. And then they get worried about the cost of hosting their site because suddenly everybody is downloading everything. And suddenly this thing which you did for fun has become a financial and emotional drain on you. And if we can provide support by reducing that financial burden, by making them not have to worry about hosting costs, by giving grants, by giving sort of sponsorship, then that means that people can build things joyfully without having to be stressed about this thing that they've created. And it's just really incredible for me to watch how much better we can make people's lives when they're making our lives better. And it makes me feel much better it makes me feel that we as a company are good people. But it also shows the vibrancy of the open source community, and that being directly involved with that is really, really great. I like the fact that something that is good for us is also really, really good for the world in general.